This podcast is sponsored by nobody. Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today I will be welcoming my first guest of 2023. I will be talking to David Charkham. He played a gorilla in Stanley Kubrick's timeless sci-fi classic 2001 A Space Odyssey. And he's a British actor, and he's got a history of great British roles in theater and acting. He was also on ABC Stage 67 in a production of The Canterfield Ghost with Douglas Fairbanks Jr., Natalie Schafer, Mrs. Howell, and Peter Noon of Herman's Hermits was in that production, and I got to ask about that as well. He was in ITV Saturday night production of Twelfth Night with Sir Ralph Richardson and Alec Guinness. He was in the Alec Guinness movie Cromwell, and he did a stage production of Jesus Christ Superstar, and I'm going to ask him about all that stuff today. It's 2001's 55th anniversary, so this is a very special episode. He'll be my first and most likely only guest from that classic landmark movie. I'm going to kick off 2023 with a bang. So, I have to address this. This has been happening for quite some time now, and I've just about had it with it. I appreciate it when my subscribers leave comments on each video. However, I get really annoyed when certain subscribers leave 2, 3, sometimes 4 comments on the same video, especially if that person happens to be crazy. Please leave me one comment, even if it's like 4 paragraphs, but please don't leave me 2, 3, or 4 comments. It creeps me out. So yeah, here is my interview with David Charkham. So going back in time, I know that your parents were in the fashion business, but did you gravitate toward acting early on in your childhood?
Yes, I did, Tommy. I would definitely gravitate to acting. I didn't call it acting, but it was showing off. I just wanted people's attention. So yeah, I would act. I would perform because I wanted people to look at me. So yes, I was acting probably from when I could speak.
Right. Did you do school plays and community theater and all of that?
Yes, I did school plays. We did a school opera, and I just took to it like a duck to water. I really enjoyed myself.
Mm-hmm. So after high school, did you study anywhere?
Well, I got thrown out of school at 15, and I went to a kind of drama school.
Right.
But I was always a round peg in a square hole. But when I got to the drama school, in the school holiday, we were connected to a local theatre where I started to just have, I suppose you call it, work experience.
Right.
Now I'd be in the local theatre, and some days I'd sell ice cream, some days with the scenery, and some weeks I'd sell tickets, and sometimes I'd dress the actors. It was a real kind of apprenticeship in live theatre.
Yeah.
And that was at about 15, and by the time I was 15 and a half, I got picked up by an agent, and I started working as a professional actor at 15 and a half.
Mm-hmm. In 1965, you played a schoolboy in the musical Passion Flower Hotel. What was that experience like for you?
That was fantastic. I didn't, I didn't know how successful I was until it all went. Yeah, it was wonderful. I was the baby in the show. There were some people that became quite well known. I just loved it. It was a great show. I sang and I danced a bit and had a great time.
Nice. How many performances did you do of it?
Oh, I think we only ran in the West End of London, like Broadway, for probably 10 months, if that. It wasn't a big hit. Like,
wow.
The shows I did later on, they ran for years, but it was fun. It was great fun. In fact, the only person you probably would have heard of in America, the guy that wrote the music was called John Barry, who wrote all the Bond themes.
Oh, yeah.
He invented the James Bond theme.
Yeah, wow. You recorded the song I Love My Love for Decca Records. Was that a big hit in the UK?
No, I'd like to say it was, but I'm impressed with your research. No, I'd love to say it was a big hit. I think I bought it.
Yeah.
My mum and dad bought it, and the parents of the other guys in the band. It was a big hit in our head.
Yeah.
But it was produced and put together by Simon Napier Bell, who managed Wham, or George Michael. You probably know him.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you want a singing career?
Not really. I mean, I sang and I danced, and some jobs would be musicals, and some jobs might have been kids' TV or soap operas or radio shows. I was an all-rounder. Well, they say in England, jack of all trades, but master of none.
Yeah. Exactly. We have a lot of those out here in the States as well. How does 2001: A Space Odyssey come into your life?
Well, it came in there's a wonderful book. I don't know if you know about the book written by Dan Richter called The Dawn of Man.
Yeah.
And if you're a fan of 2001, every fan of 2001 should read it. He was the choreographer. He played the leading ape that threw the bone that turned into the spaceship. And there's so much detail. It came into... They were weird. They didn't know quite what they were looking for. They needed a troupe of various sizes with various shapes, and they auditioned and they looked at actors, they looked at dancers, they looked at sports people, they looked at jockeys. But it came into my life because I just turned up. They were open audition.
Right.
And it came into my life because I just happened to be the right shape. And I've been in a done a little bit of in a dance troupe. So I was fit and I was the right shape.
Right. Were you familiar with Stanley Kubrick's movies?
No.
No, not at that time.
No, I didn't know about Stanley Kubrick. I think this is before Clockwork Orange, you know.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I'll tell you a story.
Okay.
When you're an actor and you see your friends, they go, "Hey, David, what's your job? What are you doing? What are you playing?"
Yeah.
So I would say, "Well, I'm playing a kind of ape, a half man, half ape." And they go, "Oh, yeah, sure." And then they say, "Well," and then I jump on the table and roll around a bit, so I get their attention. They knew I was acting strange, and they said, "Well, okay, David, who's the star?" And I said, "Well, the star is a thing called a computer called HAL."
Yeah.
And they would say, "Remember, this is 65. What do you mean? What is a computer? How can a computer act?" Yeah, so they just thought I was just making it up.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you get to see a full script when you got the part?
No. Oh, no, there were no scripts. I think there was probably just a shooting page. But also, whether this is true or not, but the rumours were going around that Planet of the Apes was being thought about being made at the same time. And it was alleged there was some industrial espionage between the creators of the apes and that movie and our apes. And apparently a costume and a headpiece went missing. So it was all very, very secretive.
That's interesting.
But this is a film that cost 30. Yeah, and I think it cost something like.
I think it was like.
Was it maybe $30 million in 1965? I mean, that's a lot of bucks.
I think the movie was like 10 million or something like that.
How much?
I think 10 million.
I mean, that's nothing.
Yeah, like 10 million.
And did you know that MGM had a very big studio on the edge of London in those days? Yeah.
Yeah, it was over by, was it in Pinewood or something?
No, Pinewood this was called Else Street. This was North London. Pinewood is west of London.
Okay.
But there were great tax breaks. We had on that set. I remember walking around a bit like the studios in Burbank. There was lots going on, lots of films.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a good tax incentive for Americans to come and make movies in England.
Yeah. So how long were you on set for?
Good question. Can't remember. 4 to 6 weeks, maybe, for a 6-minute section. But also during that time we were exercising. Dan was working us into a real troupe.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we all had a character. I was like a young, almost baby ape. We had elder apes. We had brother apes. We had leader apes. We had female apes. And we would go maybe once a week to the London Zoo, and we'd study the gorillas and the apes, and we would be shown films of apes in Africa. And
mm-hmm.
there was a wonderful woman, I think she's still alive, called Jane Goodall, who was probably the most experienced and knowledgeable doctor of animal behavioural stuff, who worked with families of apes. So we were being educated. And as you know, Stanley Kubrick was an absolute perfectionist. And it didn't have to be right; it had to be really, really, really right. And God knows how much film he shot for our sequence. But have you read The Dawn?
I haven't read the book yet. I'm going to.
Man by Dan Richter.
Yeah, no, I'm going to read.
It's all there. And you can see the call sheets as well. You can see what our schedule was. You can see the casting process. You can see what Stanley Kubrick thought about it. And I remember the day the monolith arrived as well. Mm-hmm.
Kubrick, yeah.
Because they had a few of those things built. You know that when the apes touch the monolith and it changes.
Yeah, Kubrick, he liked like 200 takes.
Come again?
Kubrick liked 200 takes a scene. Was it about 200 takes he made you guys do?
Well, it wouldn't have been 200. I'll tell you why. Because we were collapsing with the heat. Now, there was the heat of these extraordinary lights, because it's all a backdrop. Everything you see on that film is all interior. There were photographs of the African bush, which was superimposed, and this was, there was no CGI. This was kind of sort of basic green screening, and there was no prosthetics. These were suits. These were we would have to wear kind of sweat-absorbing long johns, and then we would put on the trousers of this furry nylon suit. Then we would put on the top, and then we would put on the gloves, and we all had to have special eye contact lenses. Now, this was almost barbaric, because these were not floating lenses. These were glass discs, because we all have to have the identical brown eyes, and someone damaged their retina. I mean, it was pretty dangerous. So that was the suit. But when the mask went on, I think we'd only last about 9 or 10 minutes before we started to collapse. There is a picture. I've got a picture somewhere of me sitting on a rock. It looks like I'm smoking a cigar. It's not. It's an air tube that goes through the force mouth and into my mouth. It's a funny picture because I'm reading a newspaper, but it looks like I'm smoking a cigar. So I don't think there'd be 200 takes. There might be 12 for that. might need us resting, taking our heads off, because in that mask, I don't know if you or your listeners know about how we work the mask. You put this mask on, this headpiece, so you were encapsulated. It's quite freaky, really. And you had 4 little kind of nozzles in front of your own mouth, and with our tongue, we could push the left nozzle, upper nozzle, or right upper nozzle, or lower and right nozzle, because apes, instead of shaking hands, they raise their lips, and their lips are giving the messages. So I could do a snarl with one tozzle, or I could do a kind of smile with all the toggles. So that's what we were doing. We were operating our mouths with our tongues. I don't know if that makes any sense, but
it was yeah.
so ancient and barbaric. This ain't the days of Avatar. This is the 1960s with great big cameras.
Yeah, CGI didn't exist yet.
heavy cameras. And I had no idea it was going to be. Oh, listen, prosthetics didn't. You can make faces, you can create things that are very light, which they kind of paste onto your face and change it. But this was, hairy suits.
Yeah, I always thought by 1968 standards, those ape costumes weren't very realistic looking. I think that if Rick Baker had been around, they would have been more real looking. Kubrick didn't want to use real apes. Hello?
Hang on a second. Well, yeah, sorry, I'm coming back. Well, the interesting thing is, the detail that he needed to do, you could never train an ape. The only real apes, as far as I recall, there's a shot of maybe an ape with a baby ape in its arms. The baby ape was real.
Okay. The baby ape was real?
Yes.
Yeah, was it?
I think there's a shot, maybe even suckling.
Mm-hmm.
That was real, because the other thing, Tommy, we had no animated machinery then.
Mm-hmm.
So there's nothing you could make that looked like an animal and operate it by Wi-Fi or anything.
Yeah. Is it true that the cast and crew had to wear masks because Kubrick had a fear of germs?
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
I think if people were wearing masks, they may have been wearing masks because they didn't want anything to touch the screen, because it was a very complicated giant camera that was being shot through various reflectors. So I would think that was like to make sure there's no loose, spittle or bits and pieces. No, I never saw Kubrick with a mask. You can see pictures in Dan's book of him walking at the back lot, talking to people.
Right. How was working with Dan Richter?
Oh, it was great. He was an amazing character. He was very unique, and he got the job. In the book, he got the job by accident, and he taught us things about movement of mind that were beyond anything that anyone ever knew in England. He was, and I didn't know. He was very modest, but he was best friends with John Lennon.
Oh yes, he actually
he used to hang out with the Beatles, and after the movie, he went to work with John and Yoko. That's another book he's written.
Right. Yeah, he was his like his assistant
recently
for a couple of years. Yeah.
That's right.
And
I'm still in touch with Dan. He lives in the mountains in California.
Mm-hmm. Did you get to meet what's his name, Kerr Dolia and Gary Lockwood?
Yes, I did actually. Oh, no. Funnily enough, no. When we were filming, I think the rest of the film had been made. But I met Keir and Gary. They have a what are those things called? Where they gather people from movies, something fest. You have them in America, when
festivals.
People in the movies get together for the convention. Yeah, I did at a space convention.
Mm-hmm.
They were nice. They were lovely, particularly Keir. He's a very sensitive Canadian, and Gary. And they seem to be flying around the world every month doing more conventions. I've got a picture of, actually, I've got a really nice picture. It's in storage. It's myself, one other ape, Keir, Gary, and the hostess, who walked upside down on the spaceship.
Yeah.
And one of the original space suits. But what was thrilling for me, it was nice to see that. But when we sat for lunch, we had 2 real astronauts at lunch with us. They impressed the hell out of me. They weren't actors, they were the real deal.
Nice. When you saw the movie for the first time, what did you think of it?
I was overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
I was overwhelmed. It was a lot to take in. In fact, I think it was too much. I couldn't take it all in. I was, I suppose I was a self-obsessed actor. I wanted to see my bit, and I enjoyed it, but I couldn't wait to see my name. We had a system called Cinerama. It was a giant screen, and a wraparound screen. And for me, whatever I was, 16, 17, it was a thrill to see my name 6 foot high. That's very selfish and insular. I had no idea as a teenager that I was involved with a classic movie, one of them that's always in the top 10 greatest films. Now I'm honoured.
Yeah, I mean, this was...
amazed that I was chosen for such an epic piece.
Yeah, I mean, this was pre-Star Wars. It was post-matinee serials of comic books like Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers.
Oh, God.
Nobody had ever seen a sci-fi movie that wasn't about fighting evil with laser guns.
Of course it was.
Yeah. It was kind of...
Exactly.
It was kind of a poetic, spiritual meaning of life.
Look at
narrative.
Arthur C. Clarke. Yeah, Arthur C. Clarke's vision.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it almost has a hidden message.
It didn't help when John Lennon made an announcement. He said the best way to this... Yeah. No, but he said the best way to see this film is on acid. That's what John said.
Yeah.
Not to be recommended, boys and girls in California.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it almost has a hidden message of what if this is heaven,
I know, and I think that's the beautiful thing. You interpret it how you interpret it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Did you go to the premiere?
No.
No. Well,
I went to a private screening, but I was off. We were all off doing other jobs. But by the time it came out, I must have been. I was in some other West End show. It was just a job I did, and I moved on, and I was doing a movie or a West End musical. But one thing about the guy that wrote it, I mean, he saw the future. Do you know the only thing that he didn't get right in predicting the future was the size of a computer? Because we know how fill the whole room, the computer.
Yeah. I don't think anyone knew.
So the only thing, he saw the future with flight and space and all that stuff, but he didn't understand he didn't know what a microchip was.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, Rock Hudson, he famously...
Well, I believe he lives in Sri Lanka.
Yeah, Rock Hudson famously walked out of the screening and said, what is this movie about?
Well, that's true. It was about whatever he wanted it to be about. That's the beauty of it.
Mm-hmm.
But Rock Hudson had just been making movies with Doris Day, so he probably couldn't relate to the subtleties of sci-fi in the future.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of people warmed up to this movie over time. Like at the time, they just didn't understand what it was about.
Absolutely. It took me time.
Yeah.
To understand it. Well, I don't know. Understand it to the best of my ability, Tom.
Yeah, it's become such a part of the nomenclature. I mean, it's Tom Hanks' favorite movie. He only watches it on projection. He won't watch it on video or television or anything. And
I know. No.
Yeah.
Dan Richter told me that when he met Tom Hanks could not stop talking about 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah.
So that's kind of good to hear.
Oh yeah, the director John Landis. He always has "See you next Wednesday" in every movie of his.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing. Did you see the sequel?
Was that in 2001?
Yeah.
No, I think Helen Mirren was in there. I didn't bother. No, I think I just wanted it to stay as it was, and you know, I'm not really a sci-fi fan. I don't not like it, but it's not been the genre of what I like now. Hey, I'm an old fart now, Tommy.
Yeah. Yeah, 2010. It's not as good, obviously, as the first one. Peter Hyams directed that. He's gotten a lot of flack in his career for using realistic sets, and like a specific kind of lighting. It's just a different movie, is what it is.
Yeah. Sure.
You were on an episode of ABC Stage 67, The Canterville Ghost, and you got to work with Douglas Fairbanks Jr., Natalie Schaefer, and Peter Noon. What a interesting, odd cast. What was that like?
Well, that's great. You're the first person that's ever mentioned that. I mean, I know I did it, but it's long. We did it in England.
Mm-hmm.
And we never saw it. It was a thrill. I mean, again, I was a kid. I had the world at my feet. And yeah, Peter Noon, I couldn't understand. He was a superstar in America, Herman's Hermits. I remember he told me he was a millionaire. That was pretty impressive then. Douglas Fairbanks, and I realized later I was working with Hollywood royalty. He was charming. He was handsome. He had blue eyes, bluer than Steve McQueen. He was an absolute gentleman.
Yeah.
Natalie Schaefer, I didn't know because she was a star in America. And was it Tippy Walker that was that played my sister? Tippy somebody, not Tippy Hendren. It was a gas. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
But I'm very touched that you know about it over there. It was never seen in England.
Yeah,
and also Sir Michael Redgrave was in it. He was one of Vanessa Redgrave's father.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, Tippy Walker. Yes, she does play your sister. You were also
right, and she was cool. She was cool. Did she become a big star in America?
I don't believe so. No. Not that I know of.
Okay.
Yeah, that was like at the tail end of those live theater shows that we had here in the U.S. on ABC, NBC, CBS, and then PBS started doing them.
And were they big? Were they did America's?
Oh, they were huge back in those.
Were they national TV or regional stuff?
National.
Really?
They were national TV. Yeah. Oh, you had movie stars, doing them on.
My wife may be listening. I hope she's impressed. Are you impressed?
Yeah, they had. Oh my God, huge movie stars on those shows.
She's making my lovely dinner. She's not that impressed.
Yeah, they had actors winning Emmys on those shows. It was so huge. Yeah.
Wow.
And then you did Twelfth Night on ITV Saturday night with Alec Guinness and Sir Ralph Richardson. How was that?
Yes, I did, and I was very lucky to work with. I worked with all the nights, and Alec Guinness. I did a film much later called Cromwell with Richard Harris, and Alec Guinness played a King Charles, and he was a very nice, kind gentleman. And it was my 21st birthday, and he gave me a special treat and a present. I never forgot that. So the nights I worked with Redgrave, and Laurence Olivier's wife, and Alec Guinness. They were all gentlemen.
Yeah.
And they didn't appear to be egotistical. And that's the thing that was unforgettable about Laurence Olivier. He walked in the room, I was introduced, and I couldn't believe he was interested in what I had to say. He wanted me to tell him how I felt, not just listen to him. I was blessed.
Yeah.
But my theatrical career, Tommy, is summed up like this. Let me just sum it up, and that is, who is David Charkham? Get me David Charkham. Get me a young David Charkham. Who is David Charkham?
Yeah, your career fluctuated, it sounded like. In 1972, you did Jesus Christ Superstar on stage. Was that a lot of fun?
That was great. But I think in the credits before that, I was in Hair. The musical Hair from 69 to 72, and that was a lot of fun. Jesus Christ was fun. But it wasn't as much fun as Hair. You could be as wacky and crazy. They encouraged you to be wacky and crazy and interact with the audience. Every show with Hair. The Superstar was an opera, the first rock opera, and that was very serious. But it was great. Had some good people, and we had to realize later that we were in these groundbreaking shows.
Yeah, they were very subversive, very controversial, groundbreaking, countercultural.
Yep. But I'm sorry, it doesn't mention that I was in Hair. I did a few years in that.
Yeah.
And that was groundbreaking of its time, because the Vietnam War was on.
Yeah, I've talked to Ted Neely and Yvonne Elliman from Jesus Christ Superstar. They're great people.
Yeah, and I see you had Yvonne Elliman on, didn't you, on your show?
Yeah, nice lady. Very nice lady. Unfortunately, we didn't get to finish that interview, but
I'm pleased to hear that.
But we had a good time with what we got. So what do you got going on these days?
Not much. I'm semi-retired. I'm a patron of a little theatre company in London. I did I had a lovely little cameo role in a film called The Imitation Game with Benedict Cumberbatch, and I played Keira Knightley, his father. That was a great movie. A great movie, because there's pockets that they picked up on the internet. But if you check that out, I had the pleasure of spending 2 days with Benedict and Keira on a wonderful low budget film.
I'll definitely check it out. Do you have anything upcoming though on the horizon?
The Imitation Game. It's a true story.
Do you have anything? No.
Not much. No, I'm semi-retired, and we're waiting to have a lovely house finished in the countryside. And a big part of my story, Tommy, is that after Superstar, I did one play with Marianne Faithfull in Austria. And then not long after that, I ended up in rehab and started my life all over again. and that was 1986.
1986.
And it saved and changed my life. And I tried to, yes, I'm 36 years sober a day at a time, and that's really changed my life. So I feel very fortunate.
Oh, congratulations.
And it's now I understand the success I had before it was all.
Yeah, I'm coming up on 8 years sober after my car crash.
Wow. How wonderful.
Yeah, it's a miracle.
I'm pleased to hear it. Is everybody in California on the program? Sometimes feels like it. Well, that's good. Well, we are brothers then.
A lot of people are, yeah. How's the COVID?
That's good. I mean, in my other life, COVID's, it could be coming again, but I should just say, because I'm going to have to go soon, in my other life, I did work in America. I worked with Ozzy Osbourne. I became his sober companion for some years and toured with Black Sabbath, and have a lovely friendship with Ozzy and Sharon.
Oh, wow, that is cool. I'm a big Black Sabbath fan.
Well, okay. I have a lot of earplugs. I've had a lot of Black Sabbath. But Ozzy's a good man, very good man. So really, that's my story in a nutshell. But it's been good to talk to you. And I forget. I guess there's a lot of people that are still fans. Generations that are fans of 2001. Long may it last. And the only regret I have, when I saw Dan Richter, we made a little documentary about 2001. I think it was shown in 2001. And I was working. He said, David, have you got time? I'm being shown around Stanley Kubrick's archives. And I'm kicking myself because I had a private invitation and a personal tour offered with Dan Richter of all of Kubrick's archives. So never mind.
Yeah. Well, David, despite all the technical difficulties, I want to thank you for being my first guest of 2023 and sharing these great stories.
Absolute pleasure. It's an absolute pleasure, and keep in touch, and send me the link to your podcasts.
Absolutely, sir. You have yourself a great night over there. Enjoy dinner.
Okay. Well, Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Thank you.
And be safe out there.
And Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you and your fellow Americans across the water. And we'll speak soon. All the best. Bye-bye.
Happy New Year. Bye-bye, sir.
Bye-bye.
Well, there you have it. David Charkham. Ain't he a cool dude? What a nice man, huh? And oh my God, so patient too. We spent about 35 minutes of technical difficulties trying to get connected before we actually did it. And we did it, as you can obviously tell. And it was great. That was a great little talk there. A man of few words, but very many great stories. I enjoyed it. Well, until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying there's no shame in living in the past because the present sucks. Later, dudes.